Are you ready for day number 7 of the COVID Chronicles? So today's Monday. It was last Tuesday that I started feeling bad and went to the doctor, got tested. That made day number 1 last Tuesday. We were on Monday, day number 7. So we're now looking at a solid week of my life. And you've had access to learn day by day what's been going on. And what I've discovered is every day has sort of had its own highlight of symptoms. And then you graduate that and then you move on to the next. So I want to talk about day number 7, what I'm experiencing on that. I feel I've got a lot to say in this video, and I'm going to try to cram it into roughly 8 minutes. We'll see how close I get to that mark. But I will say that last night was the first night I was able to just sleep all the way through the night. When I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, I just fell straight back asleep. No issues there. So I'm getting good sleep now, at least one day in. That's taken care of. I do have some congestion, but it's not so horrible. Definitely the main thing that's so obvious is going to be my lack of smell and my lack of taste. And it's more troubling than you can imagine. It definitely has this concept of feeling like you are a ghost. I mean, I can still feel things, but as far as tasting and smelling, there is a ghost-like effect in that as far as the human experience. If you haven't listened to my song that I wrote called Who's the Ghost Here, you can look up that song that I wrote here on this channel, Who's the Ghost Here? And it's a song that I wrote about how you can feel like a ghost even though you're living life. It's funny because I ultimately wrote that because of the COVID experience and working from home and kind of grasping with that. But it's still true. It is true here at the end of the year, especially now that I have no sense of taste. So here's what I want to say that I'm doing. So you all probably know that there's 2 YouTubers that I really care about watching. Thomas DeLauer, and then also Dr. Berg. They are both focused on the ketogenic diet as well as intermittent fasting. So that's mainly who I spend my time watching on YouTube. And so today I thought, well, why don't I just search to find out what ultimately causes the lack of taste and smell for people who have COVID. Because when my parents definitely had COVID back in June, but they didn't experience loss of taste or smell. So doing a little bit of research, it looks like about 80% of people who have COVID lose their sense of taste and smell. So what about the 20%? What are they doing right? What that I'm not? So what I found out is it's a matter of I wasn't consuming enough zinc in my diet. So I started searching, how can you get more zinc? So cashews, for example. Okay, I kind of switched to macadamia. I'm gonna go back to making sure I'm eating some cashews every day. So I did that. Garlic is another one. So, man, even though I can't taste anything, I put one of these whole garlic cloves in my mouth and it just burned so bad I couldn't swallow it. So I waited till I had my eggs and then I put another clove in there and cooked it a little bit and I was able to swallow it. But then I also took one of these, garlic extract, and then there's men's multivitamins, which it has over 100% of zinc in it. So I'm going to start taking these quite religiously. And if you can imagine, chickpeas is another source of it. So I guess once I start eating carbs for the day in a couple hours, I will eat some chickpeas. I don't eat pork and I don't eat shellfish, and I haven't in many, many years, like well over 12 years. But I did eat a can of this today, crab meat, because I read that shellfish has a good amount of zinc in it. So I went ahead and had some, actually right after I had my eggs. I had this other can, so maybe in a couple more days or tomorrow, whatever, I'll have another can. Thing is though, I'm one of those people, I can't really regularly eat shellfish because it'll cause my skin to break out. So, but the way I looked at it, I'm better off having some itchy skin for a little bit because I ate shellfish, which I'm not supposed to eat. If that helps bring back my sense of taste overall. Because what if I could speed up how quickly I get my taste back if I just overkill it on on zinc. And this wasn't necessarily related, but I also, this is going to be proof that I have no sense of taste. Kimchi, this is specifically the spicy kind. I will admit, talking, like, one of the symptoms that I've experienced is I can't quite speak as clearly as I could before. And there's just that fogginess that I mentioned on one of my videos before. I am experiencing that as well. So let me try to spit out this sentence again. Kimchi. I don't like kimchi. I spent some time in Korea in college teaching in an English camp, and that was there for every meal was kimchi. It's rotten cabbage. But I ate like half of this container today because it's super, super healthy for you. Like, Koreans have like one of the lowest numbers of cancer in the world. Well, they eat rotten cabbage every day, and that's part of it. So I'm like, well, if I can't taste anything anyway, I might as well eat some kimchi. So yeah, I mean, what's funny is as I was eating it, my body was like, this is good, I like this. But meanwhile, my brain and my tongue didn't know the difference. But the rest of my body's like, I needed this. So I'm just like, well, if I can't taste anything, let me just consume as much of the things as I can right now that's going to help get my zinc up to where it needs to be. All right, now I want to get to the comment section of yesterday's video. COVID Chronicles Day 6, all sense of taste gone, but insomnia isn't as bad, regaining energy. And speaking of energy, I feel energy-wise, I'm fine. Let me grab my glasses again. Maybe my eyes are more tired too, because it's the second time I've done one of these videos and I had to put my glasses on to be able to read. So let me see here. Andrew Moss, hats off to you for creating these videos. Being ill doesn't stop Nick Shell. And that is true. It's a red pill mentality. When something bad happens to you, something in life is assigned to you that you don't wish you had, find a way to overcome it. That's exactly my mentality, red pill. So the main comment that I really need to address here comes from Matt Lukock, if that's how I say the last name. Here's what he had to say, quote, "Remember when you said COVID would go away after the election? Seriously though, you've been pretty cavalier about the dangers of the virus since the get-go. You're fortunate to have a mild case. Fatigue and loss of smell is small potatoes relative to many long-term effects perfectly healthy colleagues of mine are experiencing still weeks after being infected. Has having it changed your view on the pandemic at all? You're a thoughtful guy, and what I like about you most is you're not beholden to what others expect from you. So I'm genuinely curious if your outlook has changed. Rest up, happy healing," end quote. So thank you. And there's that significant 8-minute mark in a video in which YouTube will reward me and put me in more suggested feeds and double my ad revenue, because they want me to have 8-minute videos to keep people from watching Netflix. It sounds crazy, but that's what they're doing. They also want people off of Facebook. They want all the attention, so that's why they reward the 8-minute mark videos. So as far as answering this question, ultimately the question being, has this changed your view on the pandemic at all? And I'm going to say no. Here's what I'm going to say. From the beginning, I've perceived that COVID is a harsher version of the flu, and maybe perhaps a deadlier version. If we were tracking the flu every single year and making such a deal about it every year up to this, would the numbers be all that different? Maybe they would be worse. But ultimately, I have questioned the media's presentation of this whole thing. And as far as I have been saying that after the election is over, that we would see a lot of the hysteria go away. We're not quite there yet, and let me kind of say this too. Has Biden officially been crowned president? It seems like that's still up in the air. So for me, I still think that the media is majorly spinning this, despite people dying from it, despite me having it. I still definitely think there's a major media spin on this. And for me, I still can't get over this, and no one's addressing this, no one's talking about this, but I still can't get past this. What was it, back in was it March, when really things started flaring up and everything shut down? And that's all you heard, stay at home. If you have to get out, make sure you wear your mask. That was the whole thing. And then after a little bit of time, then the protests started up that were unrelated to COVID, and then suddenly, okay, now we can all gather together and protest. I can't get past that. I can't get over that. It seems political. It seems like even with Biden being elected, it's still not quite making sense. It's one of those things, it's a bit uncanny. It's a bit uncanny to me, the way that whole thing was set up and that Biden was set up as the president. Now, in case, for those of you who haven't seen my video where I talked about how, yes, I did vote for Trump in this election, I challenge you to watch that video, because what you're going to find is I'm not a Republican, and yet I voted for him because, and this was the main reason, was because Harris, the upcoming vice president apparently, look at her track record of putting black men into prison, keeping them in there for crimes they did not do. Look that up. And for me, the thing that caused me to choose Trump was because he has a better track record of keeping innocent black men out of prison, comparatively speaking to Harris. That was ultimately what made me decide this. So check out that video if you need to. But ultimately, I can't get past the fact that it was all about stay home, wear your mask, COVID's deadly. Oh, but if you want to go, you better go out there and march in that parade. If you're a good person, you're going to go in that parade and march for this movement. So people won't talk about that. I think that's very strange. I think that's mixed signals. And I think there's something bigger than beyond what we can understand in all this. Would I change anything? I would not. I would still do everything. I would still go to the gym every day and not wear a mask at the gym. I wore a mask everywhere else because I was required to. But imagine that too. It took till just now, December, for me to get COVID, despite me going on multiple vacations this year, despite me going to the gym every day and not wearing a mask, despite me, quote, being cavalier about the whole thing. So I think that's interesting and almost miraculous too. It took me this long to get COVID. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm happy to talk more about it, but man, there is something fishy. There is something fishy about COVID. The way the media is handling it, I'm telling you, it's weird. Comments right there.